Mary had a little lamb.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randy Rhoads Show.
Turn up your mind.
4 Russian generals have reportedly been killed in the fighting. Western officials say the generals may be pushing closer to the front lines to try and boost flagging morale among the Russian troops, making them more vulnerable to attack themselves. The New York Times reports, quote, 2 American military officials said that many Russian generals are talking on unsecured phones and radios.
Great plan.
In at least one instance, they said, the Ukrainians intercepted a general's call, geolocated it, and attacked his location, killing him and his staff, end quote. And then there's Russia's loss of costly military hardware. The Wall Street Journal has this report headlined, Ukraine has become a graveyard for Russian tanks, with analysts saying that this is likely the highest number of tanks destroyed in such a short period since World War II. Now, all of this bad news is having repercussions back in Moscow. Russian news sources have reported that Vladimir Putin has put 2 of his top intelligence officials under house arrest. A Russian security services expert tells The Times that the 2 men were interrogated for providing poor intelligence ahead of the invasion of Ukraine. Meanwhile, the Russian military is reportedly so desperate for new soldiers that recruiters are targeting and pressuring Central Asian immigrants who are working in Russia, basically telling them if they want Russian citizenship, they need to sign up to go fight in Ukraine.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Okay, so let's just put it this way. The Russian invasion is slowing, which is shocking because I didn't think it could get any slower. I'm gonna recruit you today. I'm gonna recruit you. Remember yesterday we were talking about there's only 2 things that we need to do, and one of them was to get behind the Iron Curtain of media in Russia. So we're gonna work on that today. We're gonna recruit you. You're gonna do something. You're gonna actually do something, and it's gonna feel really good when you do it, and it's really easy. Okay, so that is, and the second thing that you have to do is, by the way, yesterday in the homework, there was the first link in yesterday's homework section was a link that you could click on for the second portion of what you can do. You don't have to, obviously, but you can do it. Today, the thing I'm going to tell you to do, you have to do. You have to. But yesterday, the thing that you have that I put in there for you to do is not a you must do. It's just a way to do something. And what is that thing? That thing is, if you wanted to really help, if you're feeling like, I don't know how to help and I don't know where I belong and I don't know what to do, you could sign up on this website that was put together by 2 kids in Harvard that attend Harvard. It is a website if, and not everybody can, and you shouldn't feel bad if you can't or won't. It's not a guilt thing, but you could, if you can, go to this website and volunteer to be a host for women, children fleeing Ukraine who are emigrating to places like Poland, trying to get to, when I see some of them are having to go to Moldova, I mean, it literally breaks my heart because that is one of the poorest places in the entire portion of Eastern Europe that we're looking at, right? And also there is a separatist barrier between Ukraine and Moldova, a separatist region called Transnistria, believe it or not. And Transnistria is, they were waiting for the call that, Putin had made it into the western portion of Ukraine, and then they were going to activate and they were going to continue to, support the Russian invasion of Ukraine from that portion of Moldova. So when I see people having to go to Moldova, it just literally tears me apart. But also it's a very big, I'll just call it an avenue for trafficking of women and children. Yeah, it's really sick and twisted. So I just would hate to see people have to stay there for any length of time at all, or even go through Moldova. However, as you know, most of the people that are fleeing Ukraine, they have intentions of going back to Ukraine. They will rebuild Ukraine. They will rebuild it bigger, badder, better than ever. And they will go back to Ukraine. In fact, some of the men who were allowed out of Ukraine are already turning around going back to Ukraine because they were American citizens or they were German citizens and they had family there. So they went to get their families out. And now they're going into Ukraine once their families are secure and safe to fight. Seriously. So if you were willing to shelter a family or shelter a woman with her children, and there's even boxes you can check off if you were willing to take pets. Seriously. So that's in yesterday's homework. You could go to that link. I think it's called Help Shelter Ukraine. I'll check it again, and I'll give you the website. The thing that you have to do today is really, really easy. We need to get behind the Iron Curtain that has come down between the civilized world, the West, the free world, and Russians, Russian people, Russian teenagers, Russian 20-somethings, Russian millennials, Russian Gen Zs. Yeah, they really don't understand the full breadth and depth of what their country is doing. And so the thing that we can do is tell them. Now, there are hackers and activists, hacktivists they're called, right, who are doing the real heavy lifting of hacking, which, by the way, I'm sure is not legal. But they're willing to do it. They're doing it out of various countries. Some of them are in Poland, where they're seeing the refugees. Here, let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm not asking you to do anything even remotely like this. This is the heavy lifting that I'm talking about that we don't have to do. We don't have to do this, okay? Sorry. I have to find it. Here.
You should be here in Poland. You should see all these people, refugees from Ukraine. People like you and me.
Hackers fighting against Russia's information war.
We knew that there are people all around the world who would like to do something. But since they can't buy a gun and fight against Russia, we decided to let them use their smartphones instead.
Yeah.
This man, part of so-called Squad 303, online activists in Poland who have built a tool that allows anyone to send text messages and emails to Russians to give them information about the war in Ukraine. An attempt to get around Vladimir Putin's growing digital Iron Curtain. Russia recently cut off access to Facebook and Twitter.
There's a new group that just came out with a website to allow you to text Russian cell phones.
So how many text messages do you think you've sent to Russians over the past few weeks?
3, 4, 5, 6,000. I couldn't even count.
That is what I'm asking you to do. So here's the site. Okay, there is a group of hackers. I'm not asking you to hack. I'm asking you to text. I just want you to, know that I am not asking you to hack websites. I'm not asking you to do denial of service. Even if you have the skill set to do it or you don't have any idea what I'm talking about, it doesn't matter. I'm not asking you to do that. I am asking you to text in Russian, and the message that you need to text is already pre-written on this website that was set up by a group called Squad 303. Squad 303 is named after a American unit that fought in Iraq. I don't know if it's the same. I don't want to know. I just want you to know the website. So here it is. It's also in the homework. It's the first link in today's homework. Just go to randyrhodes.com and click on homework. It's free. And then the first link in there is this link. And it will take you to www.1920, the year, 1920.in. And there is a pre-written in Russian and Cyrillic text. You can translate it. It's very benign. It just says, "Hi, friends. Just checking on you. Want to see how things are." And if you do it, it will go through like WhatsApp. And if you have WhatsApp on your smartphone, you could actually start a chat with a Russian.
All things Randy at randyrhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randy Rhodes Show.
Tyden Crawford, a truck salesman in Oregon, has spent hours messaging Russians. He says most of his texts don't get a response, and some people tell him to go away, but others engage.
It's been a mixed bag. I had a gentleman pretty early on that reached out to me and sent me a picture of where he's working, and then I sent him, we found out we like to travel, so I sent him pictures of my travels. He sent me pictures of his travels.
I'm from a generation of Radio Free Europe, and we all remember how hard it is to live in an enslaved country where you do not have proper information, real information about the world. I can remember the time when we used to listen to Radio Free Europe, the only voice from the free world for enslaved people in Poland.
It's named after
Thomas Kent is the former CEO of Radio Free Europe and an expert in Russian disinformation. Do you think some people in Russia will be receptive to these messages, or will they say, why is there an American sending me a text message?
Well, a certain number of people are going to say, yeah, absolutely, this is hostile propaganda, this is spam, this is an attempt at psychological warfare against us. But many others will be grateful for some information that they're having trouble to get.
So, yeah, and that's why I want you to become involved in this effort. You know, we do have Arnold Schwarzenegger from yesterday trying to break through the iron curtain of media disinformation and a complete and utter shutdown and blackout from Western media sources and also a whole host of social media sites in Russia by Vlad, because you know that the media is not the enemy of the people. The media is the enemy of the autocrat, of the dictator, of the fascist, right? Propaganda is their friend. Disinformation, misinformation, all that we've been, treated to here in the last 5-6 years, that's been the lifetime experience of people in places with autocrats or totalitarian governments or communist governments like China. Censorship is, censorship is a small word for, being behind an iron curtain, not able to get any truthful, fact-checked information. So you've got the hackers. The hackers are doing amazing stuff. I have to tell you, some of the things that the hackers have done, just so that you know how, let's say, full of humor, dark humor, if you will, if you may, they are. But the hackers, Wednesday night, Russian Emergency Situations Ministry was hacked. And the hackers got in and they altered the content on the emergency services page, and they replaced the department hotline, to call if you had an emergency, with a phone number and a website to go to if you wanted to defect. I swear to God, especially if you wanted to defect from the army, if you were a conscript, if you were a draftee, basically the emergency services website was hacked to provide you with information about how you can escape military service. I mean, it's just hysterical. And they titled it, "Come Back from Ukraine Alive." Click here, right? And then another piece of information on the ministry's front page was changed. It was changed to read, quote, "Don't believe Russian media. They're lying to you." And then another page said, "Default in Russia is near," offering a link for full information about the war in Ukraine. They also hacked into judicial websites with the same sort of information. And, they're doing this because at risk of, life and limb and being in prison themselves, because obviously I don't think this is legal. But the other part of it is that Russia passed this law that said that if they caught you, providing information to Russians about a war or an invasion, it's punishable with big, big fines. And of course, 15 years in prison is possible, right? But they also went into the main public service website, like water and electricity and stuff like that. And they did 50 different denial of services attacks to cripple that website. They got into the Ministry of Culture, the Federal Penitentiary Service, and the Internet Regulator. They got into their websites, and they've been putting up all these links to get real news, to get real stories, to get real information, to get real ways to, stay out of Ukraine as a soldier, blah, blah, blah. So they do have a sense of humor, but it's pretty amazing. But here's what you can do. You don't have to be a hacker, and you don't have to be the State Department. You don't have to pick up a weapon and run off to Ukraine, right? You don't have to, risk your life or a penalty or break the law. You can simply get behind the Iron Curtain of media and text somebody. And the number that the hackers got. See, this is where the hacking comes in. So hackers got into a Russian database. This is the way I understand it. Hackers got into a Russian database, and they got the ordinary contact information, ordinary phone numbers matching to ordinary Russians, just a whole database of cell phone data. And so now randomly, when you go to this website I just gave you, 1920.in, you'll see that there's a random number at the top of the page that has been generated. You have no idea why or how or who, but it's just been generated off of this ordinary citizenry database that's been hacked and has been posted. And then there is a pre-written Russian message that says, hi friend, just checking on you. Is everything okay? How are you doing? And what we hope happens is somebody responds to you with who dis or whatever. And you get into a conversation with this person and provide them with links to current events, links to, media that they, you could do the Moscow Times for all I care, because that's independent media and it's in Russian. It's also in English, but you can actually send that. You can send that, and you can help orient people who are, being disoriented on purpose by Russian media that is, you saw that they don't even flinch. They just report this bogus news. And then when a protester stands behind one of the presenters, one of the hosts, they don't even flinch. They don't even flinch. And then the protester gets arrested. But anyway, I like that idea. And the other website that I said I would look up for you from the homework yesterday is called UkraineTakeShelter.com. UkraineTakeShelter.com. That is a website that was created by a couple of students at Harvard. And what they try to do is match Ukrainian refugees to people in the United States that have spare rooms or a couch to sleep on or a place that is available for a Ukrainian. You can say if you want children. You could say if you're open for pets. You can say if you want family. You could say if you just want, two children, whatever. And they'll try to match you to somebody who needs this kind of shelter here in the United States. Now, I will tell you, Canada just waived visas for Ukrainians. For 3 years, Ukrainians can just go to Canada and work.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randy, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All right, everybody. This is the Free Speech TV Spring Pledge Drive, and it's all about media. Now you know that. Now you understand. And this is corporate free media. This is government free media. We don't take any money from the government. We don't take any political dollars. We don't take any corporate money at all. And all we try to do is do these pledge drives so that we can actually pay people. And today is Friday. It's payday. I would suggest that if you appreciate what we do and that we're free of influence from either political party, any political party, that we're free of influence from corporate America's hopes, wants, dreams, and wishes, that you support independent media by going to 877-378-8669. And if you could do a $20 a month recurring sustaining donation, we'll be happy to send you the banned book box, because America is very busy banning books. I know it sounds ridiculous, but you see where this was going. You get that. By looking at Ukraine now, I hope you understand that this is our off-ramp. This is a post-political world we're in now, and we have to save our own hides. We have to save our freedom, our literal ability to have books in the library of our choosing, books in the library that won Pulitzer Prizes in journalism. And so we'll send you The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. We'll send you Mouse by Art Spiegelman, and we'll send you Beyond Magenta. These are important and wonderful reminders of the era that we are in and hope to escape from. Or you can visit us at freespeech.org, of course, or text us at 44321, the letters FSTV. We'll send you a secure link and you can take it from there. So thank you very, very much for your support. Tom in Boston.
Hi, Randy.
Hey, Tom.
Randy, I was thinking about Tucker. People are all trying to get the dirt on him, and it just comes to my mind he works for Rupert.
What?
And to me,
I can't really understand you.
What I'm thinking is that Tucker Carlson works for Rupert. And if you really want to find who's behind Tucker, you should look at Rupert as much as anybody. Just anybody who's got connection software or whatever. I think he's the guy. And, I have a friend. He's pretty devout, truth seeker kind of a guy. And, he told me years ago how, the Australian Prime Minister said he was a cancer and all that stuff that we talk about on the society. But he also mentioned to me that he took down one of the governments in England. I think he was working with somebody named Christy Keeler, who it turned out was in the picture behind Donna Rice as well in the monkey business years ago when they took down presidential candidate, Colorado, Gary Hart. So, he was on a credit card. He was separated from his wife. And it comes to me that Rupert is very similar to all these oligarchs that are coming out of there, and President Putin, or whatever you want to call them. But they tend to be amoral, libertarian-minded pieces of work, and it makes, to me, that's what it's all about with them. Their total control and power trip. So, I would say Rupert is the most able of all to coordinate a lot of this stuff. He's a worldly man, and I think we need to second do something. Kennedy made a great effort when he first looked for licenses, and they tried to keep him from bringing his business here, and he failed. They allowed more ownership of entities, which you know more than anybody about. But, it's really been a lot worse than I ever dreamed of. And if anybody can just keep their ears open about Rupert, I think that would be a good channel of focus. That's all I want to say.
Okay. So, okay. So Sergei Lavrov actually said that the only trustworthy media in America, Sergei Lavrov, Putin's right-hand man, the guy that Donald Trump invited into the Oval Office without any record being kept, without any, official from the administration who would be able to take notes. You remember it was Kislyak and Lavrov that were invited into the White House Oval Office, the seat of power that was lorded over by Donald Trump after the 2016 election. You remember that, right? So here's Sergei Lavrov giving an interview yesterday to RT, Russian television, and saying that the only legitimate media in America is Fox News.
We know the manners and the tricks which are being used by the Western countries to manipulate media. We understood long ago that there is no such thing as an independent Western media. If you take the United States, only Fox News is trying to present some alternative point of view.
Alternative facts. Yeah, he's pro Fox News. Sergei Lavrov is Putin's right-hand guy. He's pro Fox. Fox is the only media outlet. There's no such thing as independent Western media. Hello, Sergei. Hi, nice to meet you. Wow, this is really crazy. And then, he's actually sitting there talking to RT in English, no less. So guess who this was for? Guess who he was appealing to? Saying that that Russia is just a small little sliver of media in the world. They're a minor player in media manipulation or media presentation, just a small little corner of the universe. That the West is really the big player in the media world, and that the West is trying to brainwash our children. Now, by this, you understand that Russia is extremely anti everything except for very pasty white Russian men. That's it. That's what they're for. Everybody else, everything else, every other kind of person is just, to be loathed, feared, and retaliated against, right? And so he's offering this message to that Fox News audience. That's why he invokes it, about how the media in the West is just trying to brainwash your kids.
We are very, very small player in international information war. The information world information is dominated by the media belonging to the Americans, the Brits, Anglo-Saxons in general, and of course the Germans, the French, and others. It's another matter what is the quality of those information outlets. They more and more become, if you take CNN, they prefer to avoid analytical materials. And they more and more concentrate on some reports which would be made of slogans. Russia is an aggressor. Russia is murdering civilians.
They are.
Russia is abusing sports, and so on and so forth.
Sports?
When they concentrate on TikTok and other resources like this and other platforms, and when they target kids, because TikTok is about young boys and girls, I believe this is an attempt to brainwash them for the rest of their life. And this is indecent and not fair.
Okay, Boomer.
Because we actually reported the truth about, his Russian Olympic skater being drugged at the tender age of 15, and that they're bombing civilians. Somehow we're brainwashing kids. Okay, Boomer.
This is the Randy Rhodes Show. To speak with Randy, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
All right, Friday, everybody. Max in Oregon, hi.
Hey, Randy. Hope you're doing well. Happy Friday to you.
Thank you.
You were talking earlier about, you're welcome. You were talking earlier about hackers and hacking into Russia, and I got a cool hack that's been happening, even shortly before they moved in on Ukraine. Long story short, I'm a ham radio operator, amateur radio operator, and there's actually a whole community of people who operate radio all over the world.
Yeah.
And you better believe that we've been talking and listening and to Russia military ops. And there's one military station out of Russia that's been operating since the Cold War, since the 70s. It's on 4,625 kilohertz. It's called UVB-76. Most people call it the buzzer.
All right.
And it literally just sounds like at regular intervals.
Uh-huh.
No one really knew what it's really for, but they assume that it's for transmitting worldwide instructions from out of Russia. So it's encrypted. Well, what hackers have been doing is hacking it. Instead of that buzzing sound, now it's been playing Korean K-pop music. There's a way to visually see radio stations. It's called a waterfall. And so what they've been doing is they've actually been modifying the wave so that as the signal sort of prints out on your screen, like the waterfall, almost like an EEG, like a heart monitor, you see memes of a troll face or of the anonymous mask. So yeah, that's just one kind of great way. And actually ham radio, yeah, me too. Ham radio, it's been a way to communicate for people in Ukraine. The Ukrainians has asked ham radio operators there to not use anything because when you transmit, you basically light up. A direction finder can find you and then bomb you.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's dangerous to transmit. But people are listening. Ham radios, they got really cheap ham radios are made by a company called Baofeng out of China, and you can get them really cheap. And and actually you see a lot of them wearing. You see a lot of Baofeng radios being worn on January 6th terrorists and stuff. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You do, yeah. Unfortunately, and actually, large gatherings of people on everywhere have been using Baofengs because there are like privacy tones and things. Nothing's truly private when you transmit like that on the radio, right? But there are ways to make it more difficult to sort of key up other people's radios. So
that's so
just
cool.
Something to be thinking about.
I love that.
Yeah.
I really love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, my pleasure.
It's awesome, and the sense of humor. I mean, playing K-pop and showing memes it's just so dark, but it's hysterical. And a lot of people are doing a lot of different things to get information to Russians, ordinary Russians, because you understand, about 200,000. We don't really know. But about 200,000 Russians have already fled Russia. These are middle class, upper middle class Russians who can get out of Russia, and they're fleeing. They're just getting it because they see the writing on the wall. They understand that Russia is about to default. They see there are already videos and stuff out there of old ladies. I shouldn't even say that. People like me fighting over sugar packets. Literally sugar. This is what people hoard over there. The toilet paper is already gone because that's the first thing. You know that. It happens here. But now they're fighting over, various items. Sugar is one of them. But trying to get information to the people who don't have the ability to, flee. And just to get them to go out on the street, to get them to protest, to get them to stop this, to get them to, protest against Putin's, invasion, to get them to protest because they're starting to see a lot of funerals there too. I told you at the beginning that this was all going to end when Russian mothers have had enough of losing their children to fratricide or fratricide, which is really what this is, felt. This is how it's felt in Russia, fratricide, because Ukrainians and Russians have the same culture. They have the same, they share, yes, Ukrainians speak Ukrainian, but they almost to a person speak Russian too. They have similar histories. They have similar cultures. They have similar traditions, similar food. Do you know what I'm saying? And so a lot of the Russians are unaware of the fact that this isn't a denazification special operation in Crimea or in the Donbass region. They now need to know that their kids were not told the truth, that their kids thought they were on a training mission, and that unprepared they were sent into Ukraine generally to bomb civilians, to bomb hospitals, to execute people, to lord over the death of children and infants and ordinary moms. A lot of Russians don't get this information. They don't know. They don't know. And so our job, as you understand now, is to get them to know, is to give them the information, which is the coin of the realm. It's how you orient yourself. It's how you understand the environment in which you're operating. It's basically survival. Media equals survival. Knowing equals survival. And so I love the Squad 303 effort. You can, by the way, you can do this by text message. You can also do it by WhatsApp. You can do it by email. You can actually even do it by phone if you're a Russian speaker, because, the odds are once you're outside the cities of Moscow and St. Petersburg, once you're out, and Russia's huge. It's humongous. And once you're outside of these main cities, where, by the way, very few people speak English, even in St. Petersburg, even in Moscow, believe it or not. And these are the most culturally sophisticated people, the ones that live in St. Petersburg and Moscow. And very few of them speak English. So you could just imagine, once you leave the city centers, no one does. It's sad because you know what you can see? What you can now see by covering Ukraine and Poland and Romania and Lithuania and Latvia and Sweden and Finland, and what you can now see is pretty much everyone speaks English. Pretty much. Yeah, they are trying to keep English, keep the West from being known in Russia because people would like it, and they know that. So if you're a Russian speaker, you can actually call one of these randomly chosen numbers, and you can actually have a conversation with someone in Russia. But if you don't speak Russian, don't call because no one will understand you, I don't think. It's just my basic, intel, let's just say. All right, Brother David, hey.
Hey, happy, fractured, frenzied, fragmented fascists.
I almost called it, like the homework, always has a name, and Fridays, usually it's Friday, you bastard. I almost called it Fractured Friday or Fascist Friday, and I was thinking of you.
Well, we are all in this together.
Yeah.
And Russia apart, the revolution is being televised and TikTokized and cell phoneized, and I am loving, as you know, much of my activism is done covertly. But for people who can and will, this is how it works. It's why I always tell the chat room and the Facebook streams to find 10 people who don't, to go to your website and go to freespeechtv.org, because it really is the ripple, not the sea, that's happening. And this is unifying the world. It just is. Vlad the Imploder is imploding. And while that makes him really dangerous, there are still more of us, and I don't just mean us in America. There are more of us on this planet that do get it.
Yeah. No, there's
we're
no
seeing
doubt.
it.
There's no doubt. And so you have, two vast swaths of land full of, people, China and Russia. And today, Biden spoke to Xi, and he told him, listen, you provide any military help, you provide any monetary help, you help them pay their debt, whatever you do, we will retaliate against you. And what's really interesting is that Xi depends on the United States and the European Union for trade. I mean, we are the biggest trading partner, and the EU is the second biggest trading partner. The only thing that's exciting Xi about Russia is, first of all, they're friends. They know each other very well, and they are friends. But also, he's excited about the possibility of buying all the Russian oil, all of it, and paying for it in yuan, the Chinese currency. Other than that, even the communists are like, we really don't want a war over here. We really, really don't.
Exactly. And I think President Pop is playing this about as well as a human being.
Yeah, I think so, too. This is the thing. Yes, Biden is older. Biden is, from old. But that's what you want right now. It's what you want. You want somebody that understands the Cold War. You want someone that understands.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randy Rhoads Show.
Turn up your mind.
In other circumstances, it would be called terrorism. Attacking civilians in Kyiv this morning in their homes as they were waking for breakfast on purpose.
Oh, God.
But since a state did this, it's called yet another attack on a soft target. For Ukrainians, the result is the same.
The attack happened around 8 o'clock in the morning, and it didn't just destroy one apartment building, but landed right in the center of a complex, destroying a playground and all the homes around it.
In one apartment, a sink is covered in blood. More stains by the door, likely from the injured making their way out. An elementary school in the compound was also damaged. So was a kindergarten and a supermarket. Salvaging what she could, Alla was still coming to terms with how her life was upended in an instant. I have no home now and nowhere to live. Where am I to go, she asked. With Russia's military offensive stalled and its troops suffering thousands of casualties to dogged Ukrainian resistance, Russia is lashing out at civilians in a punishing campaign of collective punishment. North of Kyiv, in hard-hit Chernihiv, the State Department confirmed an American was killed yesterday. He was identified by family and friends as Jimmy Hill from Minnesota. A teacher, he was in Ukraine to be with his partner, Irina, who has multiple sclerosis. He was searching for food when he died in a bread line, killed along with at least 9 other people in Chernihiv. His sister spoke to NBC's affiliate in Minneapolis.
My brother would spend like half of the year here and then the other half arranged in Ukraine, and then getting teaching positions at different universities to do lectures and things like that so he could be with Ira. And this last trip, he was getting special medicine, organizing that. He really loved her so deeply. And it's, in this world, it's hard to find like your soulmate. And that's how he referred to Ira, as his soulmate.
So many lives are being destroyed by this conflict. Even now, as peace talks do seem to be intensifying between Russia and Ukraine, with Turkey emerging as a key mediator. But based on what we're seeing here, it seems like any hopes for a ceasefire are still very far off.
Yes, because I don't believe Vladimir Putin is talking, about a ceasefire. I don't think Vladimir Putin is serious about negotiation. I think Vladimir Putin is practicing genocide, I can't call it ethnic cleansing, but it is, of Ukrainians. He's just literally going to wipe out Ukraine the way he did in Chechnya. You know how many people died in Chechnya, which, by the way, people think, oh, well, Chechnya is a sovereign nation. No, Chechnya is a republic in Russia. It is a state in Russia. It's part of Russia. And Vladimir Putin attacked it because they sort of kind of were, since Boris Yeltsin, they were sort of kind of trying to break away from Russia, like Ukraine broke away from Russia. And so when Yeltsin was president, he actually decided he was going to fight Chechens. He was going to, get the taste of independence out of their mouths. And he waged a war in Chechnya, and they put up such a fight that it ended in a ceasefire. This is when Vlad came on the scene, okay? That was like 94 to 96. And in 1999, when Vlad was, trying to become Vlad, I think he was mayor of St. Petersburg or some such thing, he was telling the Russian people he would get Chechnya back. He would take Chechnya back, right? Like he would make Russia great again, and he would get them back. And he waged a war in Chechnya that looks just like this one. That's the only reason why I'm thinking about it, is because it looks exactly the same. It was literally just leave rubble, leave a hole in the earth where that country was. Just a hole in the earth where that country was. He killed about 250,000 people in Chechnya, and those were the civilian deaths. The combatant deaths were in the thousands. And what did he get for it? What did he get? There was nothing left. Nothing. I mean, nothing. Not a hospital, not a grocery store, not a school, not a building, not a mosque, nothing. And they're Muslim. And then he went in there and I don't even want to say rebuilt it. He created this Potemkin village, and I told you what a Potemkin village is. A Potemkin village comes from, the early days of Russian conquering. So this guy, Potemkin, was charged with rebuilding, what is now St. Petersburg for Catherine the Great. And he really couldn't do it, so he built these facades. He built this city that looked like a real shining city on the hill, but it was just, empty. It was like a set. There was no there. There was no, interior. There was no ceiling. There was no plumbing. There was no floor. It was just all a fake facade. Well, that's what Putin did in Chechnya. That's what he did. He built a facade of a city. This is what he's dreaming of for Ukraine, too. This is why it's so freaking brutal. But I will tell you this. It seems to me, just from listening around and reading around and doing what I do, that the Ukrainians have begun to receive some of these SAM systems, some of these surface-to-air missile systems. I don't know what they've received. I imagine that whatever they've received is bigger, badder than the Stingers, Because, we went over the difference between the shoulder-fired Stinger missiles that, how they can go about 3,000 feet in the air, altitude-wise, right? So that's useful for helicopters or, But it seems like we've sent radar systems, and it seems like we've sent... some I don't know if we sent the 3000s, the S300s is really what they're called, from Slovakia. I don't know if they got, but they got something. They've gotten some stuff, and you can tell because they were able today to take down 3 cruise missiles, the Ukrainians. So getting them what they need to fight is everything. It's everything. If you believe in freedom, if you believe in democracy, you want to see Ukraine prevail here. And not just because of the brutality and the sickness that is Vladimir Putin, but because this is really the fight of the 21st century between totalitarianism and democracy. It really is. This is the threshold beginning of the 21st century efforts to keep democracies going and to advance democracy to others, right? So anyway, it seems like the Ukrainians were able to shoot down 3 cruise missiles. So I'm guessing that they have received, bigger, badder missile systems, things that can go higher, things that can, and also radar systems. So if you look at that and you start to see that Russia is being defeated. Look, we know that Russia can't win on the ground. This is what the tank graveyard stories are showing you, right? They're showing you that Russia cannot prevail on the ground against Ukraine, that the Ukrainian people will fight with they'll fight Russians with their bare hands, literally, if they have to. And they've been able to, with these javelins, which are okay, right? But with these javelins, they've been able to target a whole bunch of tanks. But also, the morale of the Russian army on the ground is very low. There are lots of stories about the Russian military on the ground walking away, abandoning their vehicles, leaving them for the Ukrainians to use, etc., etc. But it's the air war, right? And this is why Zelensky's been saying, close our skies, close our skies. And of course, Biden didn't want to put MiGs up there. And now I think I understand why.
RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randy Rhodes Show.
He's also recommending a 4th COVID vaccine shot. Now, I don't know about you guys, but many of us were vaccinated as kids against polio. We had our MMR, and I have never seen the CDC coming out saying, oh, you've got to get your 2nd polio shot. You got to get your 3rd. You got to get your 4th. And this may continue to keep going. I think the question we all should ask is, when does it stop? And when are enough vaccines enough? But we don't have that question.
Everyone in this audience that has a child or was born with the vaccine requirement, for the polio vaccine requirement, when you entered grade school, when you entered 1st grade or kindergarten, knows you need 4 polio vaccines. 4 polio vaccines. There are 4 polio vaccines that you have to have. What is wrong with her? What is wrong with her? How did she stand on the floor last night? And you know why she was there. Last night there was a vote to end normal trade relations with Russia, to end normal trade relations with a dictator who is literally committing genocide in a brother country, okay? In a brother country on his border. Literally attacking children, literally killing pregnant women. It's not just that his weapons are dumb bombs or anything like that. It's that the maternity hospital is the target. The school, the kindergarten is where it started. Do you remember that? The very first target that Vlad hit was a kindergarten on purpose to let us know, to let Ukraine know, to terrorize them, to scare them, to let them know that they were going to target, Russia was going to target the children. The children. She's standing on the floor because last night there was a vote to end normal trade relations with Russia, and this thing passed 424. Wow, that's very bipartisan. Yes, it is. 424 to 8 to 8. So you're sitting there scratching your head and other various body parts going, oh, so who are the 8? All Republicans, all of them. To continue to behave as normal with Russia, to continue to behave as normal. And she was one of them. She was one of them. She's so worried about the children. She's so worried about, family values, right? She's so worried about it. She has 3 children, which is the scariest portion of this whole thing. She has 3 kids, and she knows damn well that there are 4, sometimes 5 polio vaccines that are required to get immunity from polio. Seriously. A paralyzing disease that affects children. And she stands on the floor in this heinous top. I don't even know what that shirt was about. It was like the fashion police needed to be called. But she voted no against, they passed a bill to tax Russia, to impose, and Belarus too. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, Thomas Massie of Kentucky, Chip Roy of Texas, Glenn Grothman of Wisconsin. I'm sorry, Wisconsin. You got to stop sending us wackos. You got, of course, Andy Biggs of Arizona and Dan Bishop, I don't know, of North Carolina. They were 8 Republicans that voted to continue as normal, to continue on as normal. And here's the reason why Marjorie Taylor Greene said she was a no vote. This is crazy. I'm quoting her. This is from her floor speech. She said, "All we're hearing on the news is Ukraine. Washington seems to care more about sending our sons and daughters to war than they do about domestic issues." How many times has Biden said we are not putting boots on the ground? How many times has Biden resisted the temptation to insert our country into this Russian genocide? Says, oh, and by the way, the CDC, I want to see the CDC recommend 4 vaccines for polio because they'll never do it. Well, that is the recommendation. Go look it up. Look up the recommendation by the CDC for how many vaccines a kid has to have to get immunity from polio. You get your first one when you're 2 months old. You get your second one when you're 4 months old. So maybe she doesn't remember. But she's got 3 kids. Oh, my God. Thomas Massie said that he was a no because, quote, "This bill allows Biden and future presidents to sanction virtually anyone they choose anywhere on the globe without congressional approval." This was a congressional approval. I just, these people are just they're so willing to lie, cheat, and steal. Lauren Boebert said that Congress keeps focusing on distractions abroad and not our own challenges brought on by Joe Biden at home. She thought the bill had bad language that could simply hold traditional views of life and family and restrict access to abortion. I don't even know what she's talking about. Do you? These are some lunatic, a traditional view of families, right? So the traditional view that she's protecting is what? Bombing kindergartens? Honestly, I don't understand them. This is a bill that actually allows for sanctions to be brought against serious human rights abusers, people who practice terrorism, people who indiscriminately, well, I shouldn't say indiscriminately bombing because it wasn't indiscriminate. They discriminated and they actually chose the targets to be kindergartens and schools and hospitals. It's not indiscriminate. It was very discriminating. I don't know. We got 8 crazies there. We got eight lunatics still there. This isn't even including Kevin McCarthy or, any of the other, crazy people that will say just about anything at all. Tony in Atlanta.
Hello, my sister from another mister.
Hey.
How you doing, Randy?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm really worried about the midterms because this Marjorie Taylor Greene is getting funded more than almost any Republican out there. They're giving her money hand over fist.
Who?
It's ridiculous.
Who's?
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
No,
who's donation?
Donate. Yeah. Well, that's why she
Yeah,
does
she's
it.
getting
She does it to get fundraising.
But that's scary, though. I mean,
of course it's scary. They'll say anything. That's what I'm saying. They'll say anything at all to get money into the coffers. But she's got a challenger. She's got a bunch of challengers. But
Marcus Flowers.
Yes.
Yeah. But that corridor of Georgia is a really big time Republican area, and I don't know. He's a good candidate, but I don't think he's getting the traction.
Well, I don't either. We'll have to wait and see. But I will tell you, she's got other challengers. There are other people running against her. Some in the Republican primary. But she's only been there 2 years, right? This is a first termer. It just seems like forever. So we'll see. We'll see if we can get rid of her.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randy, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844.
Okay, so you know how important media is for survival now, right? Now everybody gets it. Everybody understands that having access to fact-based media, truth-based media, justice-oriented media is essential for a democracy to survive, let alone, proliferate around the world, to set an example of what it looks like to have a free and fair media. Channels that actually owe nothing to nobody except for the viewer. And that's what Free Speech TV is. And by amplifying us, you are amplifying you. And that's a good thing. So this is our spring pledge drive. Yes, I know it's going on and on. If you'd like for it to end sooner and quicker, you could give more and more. Bigger, badder, better, sustaining, repeating. Okay. 877-378-8669. That is our phone number. Freespeech.org is the website, or you can text 44321, the letters FSTV to 44321. Thank you very much. Sandra in California.
Hi, Randy. God, long-time listener and my first time calling you. Glad to speak to you. Thank you for popping my cherry. I wanted to say about our reproductive rights that are under attack here. I think we should frame this as the commie Republicans trying to commandeer women's bodies and turning us into reproductive sex slaves, like factories, how under communism they take over factories and the means of production. Well, they want to take over the means of reproduction and use all of us as like factory farm slaves that are just being just like the good old days of slavery, because they want to make America great again. I guess that's the time they want to roll us back to. But I think that there needs to be more fire and urgency in how we talk about this instead of just saying that
what everybody's
under assault.
Well, you know what everybody's waiting for, right? I mean, look, the Democratic Party, they had Build Back Better, which had an enormous amount of good stuff in there for families, for women to, help with the child tax credits and the family leave that would be paid and, but we're all waiting for the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court's got that case, that Dobbs case. And so and so they will obviously give us their opinion about whether or not we're entitled to be free from government intrusion in our, bodies sometime in June, July, right around there. And that is just ahead of the election. And people will get fired up about, listen, if they say, hey, listen, we're just going to leave it as is. And, viability is still the target date for when you can and can't make a decision about if you want to reproduce. If they leave that be, everybody will be cool and they will forget about it and will have no impact on the election. But if But if Amy COVID Barrett actually has her wet dream of being a handmaid for real.
Yes.
Okay.
Or forcing us to be.
Right.
Forcing every little girl. Just imagine. I hit puberty at 11. So just imagine now, I get raped by a grown man. I get pregnant, and then the big state government, these commie Republicans, that's what we should refer to them as, commie Republicans, they will commandeer my body and force me as a young child or my daughter or your daughter or anybody's daughter to have a baby when they're not even emotionally ready, when they've just been scarred. I mean, yeah, and Amy Grin and Barrett, that's what I call her, because she wants I call her the Grin and Barrett. And so, you know what I mean? It's just like, I'm just sick and tired. We need to get the way they get when they call us names. Well, they are commies because they want to commandeer our bodies. We're not baby-making factories.
They're not communists. They're fascists is what they
but
are.
But communism, that's what they want to do. They want to take over the means of production. That's why I say, and they always red bait against everybody else, call everybody a commie or a socialist. But that is actual communism.
The name calling thing is,
No, I mean, but it's accurate because they want to turn us into baby-making factories.
Again,
well, we could get raped, and then the rapist gets to have a say.
It's not just rape. It's not just most of the people, most of the women who make the decision have already had children, and they either can't afford more children or they don't want more children. And you know what? We're free to decide for ourselves. But like I said, the Supreme Court's going to, give us their opinion about our autonomy, about our ability to conduct our own lives as women. The only sex that can actually reproduce, which has been driving men crazy since the beginning of time. But if they start to take away even those basic rights, then you'll see the election will be completely affected by it.
Yeah, but I mean, Texas already gives us a prelude of what they're,
It's not just
into.
Texas. There's Idaho, Florida. I mean,
but the Texas case went to the Supreme Court, and they decided to well, who cares? And I don't even get also
the Texas case they just set aside pending the Dobbs case. That's the one.
But they should have struck it down because it's totally unconstitutional.
Well, they didn't have any arguments on it. They just set it aside, right? So they instead of staying it pending a decision, they just let it rip is what they did.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. And now the young females, because I remember in the beginning reading about a little child, she was about 12 or 13, who had to be driven out of the state by her family members just to get an abortion because she was raped. That's why I use that analogy because it's so accurate, because it's like we're all within reproductive age, we're all we have
but when you talk about it like that, people sit there and go, how many people are actually raped? Well, the truth is 1 in 4 women are raped.
Lots.
Right.
Lots.
Yeah.
I've been raped. I mean, and I didn't go report it. I was raped as a teenager by a grown man. I was 17. I was in the wrong place, but that's not my fault. He was a grown man. He did it because he wanted to. I never reported it because I was too scared of the backlash, because that's how you get treated. Well, you're in the wrong place. Yeah, I drank a few beers. I was with someone who was, but at the same time, it's why does that have to be always put on the female? It's when he's the one who decided he was going to violate my right to my body. I never consented to that.
Now you're going down a criminal path. Okay, so I'm just saying to you, you have to wait for the Supreme Court in the summer. We're only, what is this, March? It's March, right?
Yeah.
April, May, June. We're literally about 12 weeks away from knowing whether or not we lose our rights.
We're free, whether or not we're free or not.
We're definitely
not. It's a free for all on our body.
Well, we're definitely not free. I mean, you look at the voter suppression and how they are incrementally taking away our rights. Right. And you have to understand that this is what it looks like when it creeps up on you. It slow, and then bam, all of a sudden. That's why Ukraine is so important, because that's what it looks like. It looks like slow, incremental removal of rights, removal of media, removal of this, censoring that, doing da-da-da. And then bam, all of a sudden, it's like a genocide, right? Everybody that isn't loyal has to go.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we are. We're in the incremental portion of the removal of freedom, of the removal of rights, right to vote, right. We don't know if we have a right to privacy. which is what this particular issue is about. It's about privacy, being private. She didn't have to, tell me anything about her private life, right? It is what it is. She does what she does. No.
This is the Randy Rhodes Show. To speak with Randy, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
We continue to support Tsar Putin in the war effort. Can we get an 07 in chat? We want to just keep in mind, we want to keep our brave soldiers in the white, blue, and red in our prayers and our thoughts as they continue to liberate Ukraine from the great Satan and from the evil empire in the world, which is the United States. So, of course, our thoughts and prayers, our hearts go out to you, the pride of the Tsar, the pride of Moscow. We continue to root for them as they liberate Ukraine.
Right out of their lives. Yeah, liberate them right out of their bodies, right out of them. They are baby killers, obviously. They're for this. That was Nick Fuentes, okay? And Marjorie Taylor Greene and the rest of these white supremacists that really are toiling in our Congress with our consent, meaning the voters voted for these people, go and talk to crowds that are cobbled together by guys like Nick Fuentes. And nothing ever happens to them. Their leadership never says, that's a bridge too far. Flirting with fascism in this manner or, giving a tip of the hat or an endorsement to white supremacy is just not okay within our party. This is why I'm telling you that this invasion, this genocide, that this cleansing that Putin is doing in Ukraine it's such an off-ramp for everybody who thought that watching Tucker Carlson was a good thing to do. Everyone that thought that Tucker Carlson saying, "Why should I not root for Russia?" which I am, was not offensive or wasn't an invitation by the West to use us as propaganda tools on Russian television, state-run media, and we're all okay with it. This is your off-ramp. This is where you get off. This is where you say, okay, I'm done. I get it now. Okay, I see why Joe Biden is, somebody that deserved to be the president of the United States. For emergencies like this, for cases like this, where he won't put American boots on the ground because, listen, Joe Biden not only lived through the Cold War, not only understands it, not only, gets China, but Joe Biden also watched Iraq, and Joe Biden also watched Afghanistan fall into, a complete death trap for the United States. This is why you want somebody with foreign policy experience. This is why you want somebody who's very cautious with American lives, who respects American lives, whose son served, right? And he knows what it takes and why and when and where America needs to put planes in the sky and enforce a no-fly zone. This is not one of those cases. And I'll tell you why I get it now. I get it now because, the idea that putting 25 or 24 MiGs in the air would save Ukraine from what's happening in the sky that's being done by Russia. It just isn't. It doesn't. It's not logical. You have to remember this. Those planes would have to land. And wherever they landed, one shot, they're all gone. They're all gone. Also, to give Vladimir Putin any target that would lead him into America, that would lead him into NATO, that would give him permission to attack Poland, where all the Ukrainians went, or to attack Lithuania or Latvia, which is on his border, right? Anything at all would be something that would be of last resort. And 24 MiGs isn't going to solve the problem. This is why I think we decided to do it from the ground. And by from the ground, I mean these missile systems. These the not the javelins, but the bigger ones. I don't know that we're
Was it
sending
the S-300 you mentioned earlier?
The
That is
S3
impressive looking, man. That
Okay.
is some kind of piece of equipment.
So that isn't ours. That's Russian, okay? And the reason why those are useful is because Ukrainians know how to operate them. And so those can go way, way higher, and they could take out an aircraft that was a bomber, that was flying at higher altitude, okay? I don't know that we're going to do Patriot missiles. I can tell you that from what I'm seeing, the Eastern European border countries, the Polands of the world, the Romanias of the world, they are setting up SAM systems. They are setting up Patriot missiles just in case. Just in case. So the eastern flank is getting ready to intercept. The eastern flank is getting ready to aim at something if it's aimed at them. And that would be World War III. There's no question that would be World War III. But I get that these missile systems, these intercepting systems operating with radar, plus these drones, the new drones that we did send, I'm sure we sent the Switchblade drones, that from the ground, you could probably hit more Russian air targets than you could with 24 Russian MiGs. There's an article in the Homework today if you want to read it. There's one guy. He's a billionaire guy that owns the only American-owned MiG that anybody's aware of. Okay, and he's one of these guys that set up sort of like a PayPal system. A way to make payments online when he was a teenager. And he's made, $1 billion. And so he's also kind of an astronaut dude. And he owns a MiG. And they asked him, whether or not this thing would be useful to Ukrainians. And he said, I don't see how it would be. The Russians can spot things in the air real easy. Plus, he also added the little detail that I just included. That is, those planes have to land somewhere, and that would become the target for Russia. And in one shot, you could take out all 24 of these MiGs. He seems to agree that Joe Biden is doing the right thing by not doing that, by not allowing those planes to fly, because Russia would just take them out. And that, and then when you read about these systems that, we have that are available, that, these Soviet origin weapon systems that track Russian warplanes that are flying several miles above the ground, but can target them, can see them, can intercept them, can blow them up. That's probably the right way to go. That's probably, And I got to tell you that, we will not know until this is over what actually was given and what actually is being used. But I can tell you today, I saw 3 cruise missiles be taken out by Ukrainians on the ground. And I have to assume that that's due to sending them these ground-based missiles, surface-to-air missiles. That's what a SAM system is, surface to air missile, SAM, right? And I think that they would do better staying on the ground this way. I think there are a lot of big brains that are working on this, and and I can't wait to see the movies. Like the movies that are going to come out of this about how they got the weapons into Ukraine, because this is just amazing. And it also seemed like today, you have your regular military in Ukraine. You have the regular military that is, working professionally as a military. And then you have their National Guard, which has been activated, obviously, by Zelensky after the invasion began. And it seems like the National Guard units, which are regional units just like ours, are in, deep woods, like in Vinnytsia, okay, which is one of these, rural places. It seems like they got weapons today too. So if the weapons are making their way into the militias, into the National Guards, into their units, then you could just best believe that the regular military has received, an extraordinary amount of things, like the S-300 and some other ones. There's one called the Gecko, That's also surface to air, and it goes like, I don't know, 3 miles into the air. 3 miles. So there's one called the Grail that goes 2 miles up, and then there's the Gecko that goes 3 miles up. So I think that these are probably more useful tools to take out the Russian military. Now, the ground forces, as you know, are pitiful. And they're pitiful because their heart isn't in it, number one. And number two, they were never told they were going to war. And number three, they have no desire to kill babies. Okay, they have no desire to target hospitals. They have no... From the air, it's probably easier because you don't have to come face to face. But these weapons are designed to hit targets at higher altitude and much longer range than the javelins can. And it just looks like they've got those weapons there today. I'm just guessing. Have a good weekend.